is on Tualatin Moving Forward Quarterly Update with Mike McCarthy. Welcome, Mr. McCarthy.
Well, good evening. So I'm Mike McCarthy. I work for the city as a transportation engineer, and I'm going to be sharing my screen on our Tualatin Moving Forward Quarterly Update. And I'll try to keep it brief. I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight. And there you go. So we're up to our full screen. So got a couple pages here. So this is our Tualatin Moving Forward Quarter Update for June 13th. And, as you know, and before, we try to provide updates each quarter of what we've been doing with the Tualatin Moving Forward program and the bond money involved. And tonight we're focusing on the projects coming up for construction this summer and completed this spring, and what we're looking forward to. Also, just a little sneak peek, we're going to have a bus tour in a couple of months to be able to actually see some of these projects. So here's our updated map. We now have 22 projects built. 12 more are still underway. Recently completed 50 Wilkie, some improvements there to help keep vehicles on the road and help make it a little easier to cross. And then Tualatin Road from the community park over to Sweet Drive and in front of our new Chief Pickering station there. And so that included some widened sidewalk, a couple better crossing of the road, better crossing of the railroad, and some other improvements. And we're just starting construction week on a project over at 95th and Avery near Tualatin School in that whole area. Some of that's done already. This is a crosswalk that we installed last fall across the street at 93rd, where we found that a lot of the students walking to and from school were coming from this direction. And this is one of the first things we did to help them get across Saggart. And then we also converted the intersection of 95th and Saggart to an all-way stop. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that, and we think it really helps make it safe. And then as part of our paving program, we actually striped some buffered bike lane in Avery between 95th and Boons Ferry. And this is an overall overview of the project. So Tualatin Elementary is right here, and a lot of it's around the rectangle of 95th, Saggart, and 93rd. So probably the biggest change that people will notice is we're fit in a center left turn lane on Avery Street. So if you turn on the 95th and into the school, you'd actually have your own lane to turn in there, and that'll help our traffic flow quite a bit better, I think, especially in the morning rush hour. And we've got enough space between the curbs to do that. We will have to turn radius right here on the northwest corner to make buses can still get around the corner and stay on the road. We're also planning on making some changes to the signal. If you're headed south on 95th right now, you just get a red, yellow, or green light. And even if someone's in the cross, you get a green light. And we don't want that. So we'll be changing that so it'll have arrowheads. So it will be an arrow to left and an arrow to turn right. And the right turn would then stay red when the crosswalk sign is on, so that we can have the kids cross a little safer that way. We'll be consolidating the speed zones on 95th. Right now, there's a school speed right in front of the school and another one at the Saggart intersection. And then in between, there's a stretch of 35-mile-an-hour road. And we'll be taking that 35-mile-an-hour stretch out at one school speed 20 all the way through to past the Saggart intersection. We'll be shortening up this end of it. And then reaping 95th, keeping the northbound bike lane, agging a southbound bike lane, allowing parking along the school fields, except for during school arrival and dismissal times. And then also building in some sidewalk along the north side of Avery Street connecting to the school, and a couple speed bumps on 93rd. And then at the north end of 93rd, we're planning to finish the sidewalks there along both sides of 93rd, and including a stormwater treatment planter that's been in our range stormwater plan right along the east side of 93rd there. Another project coming up.
Might go back to that. I just want to point out that we're looking at Hudson Heights apartments that you made the big decision about, and so this will address some of the parking issues that were brought up when you talked about that project.
Thank you. Another project going out to bid this summer for work in the summer and fall. Crosswalk on 65th Avenue across from Meridian Park Hospital, connecting over to some big apartment complexes on the west side there. And then a big project coming along Boons Ferry Road. And this one's scheduled to go out to bid in a couple weeks. And hopefully, if we get good bids, we'll be able to, the contract award will be on your agenda the same night as our bus tour. And this is the whole section of Boons Ferry from South to IBAC, and redoing a lot of those asphalt walkways that have a lot of bumps from the tree roots on them, and fixing a lot of issues with ramps and a couple crossing issues, adding flashing light crosswalk at Apache, and fixing up a number of other areas where some paths are just buckled up and they're past their useful life. It is planned to include some lighting along the path between Avery and Siletz as well in there. So that'll be a pretty big project coming. And we're also working on design of our neighborhood traffic safety program, and 6 projects with that. Those will also be going out to bid in the summer for work in the fall, including sidewalk in the gap along the southwest side of Avery, 12th and Sherwood, and flashing lights at the crosswalk across Martinazzi and Muck. Some improvements on the bridge across Sagert Street across I-5 to help you walk across that easier. So on Martinazzi by Fred Meyer, flashing lights, crosswalk by the Blue Lot and the Nurses Association building on Boons Ferry on north side of downtown. And then we're working on doing what we can to particularly help walking and make it a little safer in the Stone Ridge neighborhood there. We're also working on the Hazel area project. And this one, flashing lights at the existing crosswalks onto Alton Road that don't have a new crosswalk at 115th up towards Hazelbrook Middle School, and then some restriping along Hazelbrook Road and Juergens Avenue. In both cases, make it more fitting of the neighborhood setting that they're in. Some narrower travel lanes, allowing parking along the west side of Juergens and bike lane sides of Juergens. And fixing up the corner of Juergens and Hazelbrook right near the park to make that a little better. And then adding a new crosswalk, but without flashing lights, and help to get across on Juergens near Wasco, Kiowa. And this is some more just description of what we're doing as part of that project. And then you get a chance to see it for yourself in a couple months. So with that, I think I'll stop sharing and open up for any questions or comments.
Questions for Mike? Councilor Pratt.
Hey, Mike, I want to thank you always for your updates because they're very understandable. But I'm just because I haven't looked at it lately is when do you expect to have that extra lane on 12th and Sherwood to the freeway completed?
That one we're working on for next summer.
Okay.
In the
that one gets asked about a lot. Great. And then I'm wondering, have all the projects been identified, or are there still funds left for their projects?
They've all been identified.
Okay,
we have identified.
Okay. Then my question is on a particular road. I have all these little 3-4 mile loops that I do from my neighborhood, and the one street that I think is still really, it's one of our only unpaved sidewalk streets is Killarney, and especially that part where you go up the hill and around towards Moortop, that's before the sidewalk starts, that's really pretty dangerous. And I'm wondering if that had been identified.
We had some requests there, and unfortunately, we haven't had the funding to be able to build all the projects that we want to build. I think that would be a really good street to get sidewalks, but I think it would take quite a bit to get those accomplished.
Okay, and is there, I guess my other question would be, is there, other than that hill part, the rest of the road coming down to Boons Ferry is kind of wide. Is there a way to put some kind of way to deal with that so you'd have separation for pedestrians?
I think that's something we can look at as a potential future project.
Okay.
The Boons Ferry project will be including what we call curb extensions at the Killarney intersection. So the curbs will be coming in to make it only about 24 feet wide getting through, which is plenty for two-way traffic, but wouldn't allow parking on either side. But we figure by narrowing just the entrance to Killarney, we figure that might help at least make it a little more of you're entering a residential neighborhood as you enter.
Okay. It's kind of interesting that it stands out when we have a street that doesn't have a sidewalk. So
that's a good thing.
Other questions for Mike? Council President Grimes.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just love to see all the good work that gets done all the time on these bond projects. It's just fantastic. I have a question about some of the roadways where you're adding bike lane. Because I know at one time you guys had shown us this really cool concept where you'd have the traffic moving, and next to the traffic would be the parked cars, and then next to the sidewalk would be the bike lane. The idea that the parked cars would be like a safety buffer for the bikes that would be next to the sidewalk. Will that be a feature on any of the road you showed us tonight, or was it going to be more of the traditional traffic bike and parked vehicle?
As we were looking at those, we didn't really see one that was a good candidate for that kind of a treatment. Jurgens is the one that we're looking at, where we're planning to build both a bike lane and the parking strip. And in that case, the parking doesn't get used that much. So the kind of the travel parking bike lane tends to work best when there's a lot of parking. And we didn't think we'd have the level of parking on Jurgens to really kind of have cars to provide the buffer. And so it's one that I think is a good idea in the right place. I don't think we just had that with the ones that we're looking at.
And would it be, do you think it could be possible over by 12th Elementary along that, is it 93rd, the long straight stretch where you've done so much work on that? That be a possible candidate since we're opening up more parking next to sport field? Because I'm just thinking if there's any place you would want to protect a bike lane, I mean, you want all bikers to be protected, but when I think about that, where it could be like little kids biking to school, could that be a place that it could work or not?
Yeah, and that on 95th, looking at that one,